And I think I kind of got it together because I think this whole Bigfoot thing is a smaller part of what really is going on in this environment we live in today. We're in a different type of world, and where aliens and UFOs are being spotted too and being acknowledged by our government. And that kind of answers a lot of the enigmas, because what got me into quantum physics was the strangeness that went on up there. When we seen them, then we wouldn't see them, and then they leave tracks, and the tracks stop, and then sometimes you hear everything being messed up outside the shelter because we stayed inside this. It looked like a big beaver's nest. It was a group of trees that grew in a circle, and we laid deadfall up on them, and then strapped cables around it, and then cables. Anyway, we had a little beaver's nest, which we all stayed in. They'd come around and mess with us while we got inside, and so we only got glimpses of them occasionally until 1974, when I was out there with my buddy. We packed some supplies in, and I write about this in my Voices in the Wilderness, because it's when they started interacting with us. Usually they would wait till we got inside the shelter, but this night they didn't do that. They started, you hear the pounding of the rocks and the whooping back and forth, and it's just different. And we knew that was them because that's how they announced themselves before they started messing with you. So we had learned from the previous years, just be still, ignore them, they come closer. And they did.
Right there, I just seen movement right through there.
Hello guys. Ron Morehead has been known for decades for his worldwide research into the Bigfoot Sasquatch phenomenon. He is an author, researcher, lecturer, experiencer, and producer of the Sierra Sounds. To date, he comes closer than any other researcher to having a complete body of evidence. The Sierra Sounds are the only Bigfoot recordings that have been scientifically studied, time-tested, and accredited as genuine. Ron has documented his personal interactions with these giant beings and produced his story on a CD and also in a book, Voices in the Wilderness. In order to try and understand the enigmas associated with these giants, he began to delve into quantum physics for the scientific answers that he and his hunting friends experienced. And as a result, he wrote another thought-provoking book, The Quantum Bigfoot. Ron now resides with his partner, Kerry, in North Carolina, and has traveled from Alaska to Patagonia and from North America to Siberia in search of the truth to how these beings are able to stay so hidden from classical science. So I'm just going to ask you, Ron, how did all this start for you?
It started for me in 1971, and I was involved with some hunting guys. There's about 6 of us all together. And really, we're about 8 miles in the wilderness, and from closest place you could drive to, and then had to pack into this remote area, and then about 8,400 feet in elevation. So it was very remote, very imposing to get to. But anyway, these beings were coming around our camp at night and making these sounds. So we started taking tape recorders up with us, and we started recording their sounds. And in 1971 is when it started, but the winter of 71, 72, we got a hold of a cryptolinguist, not a cryptolinguist, but a cryptozoologist, Ivan Sanderson. And he sent a message to a man named Peter Byrne on the West Coast, who got a hold of Alan Berry, who said they all thought it was a hoax. Of course, I didn't know that till I read the correspondence later on. They thought it was somebody pulling their leg, because a 23-page letter that Warren Johnson, leader of our group, he wrote to Ivan Sanderson. Anyway, Al Berry came down and he interviewed us and was convinced that we were telling the truth from our perspective, but he was thinking somebody's probably pulling this guy's leg. So he wanted to be invited in, so we invited him in, and he went in there in 1972, and the snow had melted, and he started experiencing the same thing. So he started recording the same thing, and not the same thing, but these voices, these sounds that these creatures were making, and he's the one that actually fostered the studies. And without his doing, I wouldn't be with you today, because he's passed away now. But he got a hold of a professor of electrical engineering to attest that the tapes were genuine or not. He just wanted to know for sure if no one could be fooling him. Very inaccessible place to get to do something like that. So it was Professor Curlin at the University of Wyoming did a year-long study on the sounds, and he said that they were outside the human range, the average human range, but they were also inside the human range and below the human range, above it, all over the board. He's got a graph of that, and he wrote a paper about it. That was presented in Anthropology of the Unknown in British Columbia in 1978, I think it was. Forgot, but anyway, somewhere around there. Man Like Monsters on Trials, the name of the book. And anyway, he gave his report in there, and he also gave a report to the symposium that was being held up there in the BC, the University of BC, British Columbia. And that wasn't enough, even though he's a professor of electrical engineering. He showed where the sounds had not been speeded up, they'd not been slowed down, they'd not been manipulated in any way. They were they were inside, like I say, the human range, and outside too. And there was no 60-cycle hum, which was also showed where they were pre-recorded. And he just went through. He's an electrical engineer, very high-profile guy, and so that was a good step. But it wasn't really enough to get academia to open up their paradigm, I should say. Everybody's got their mind made up what they think these things are, and they got to be an ape in the woods, right? That's what they think, and they're so wrong about that, I think. But that's my opinion, because what we were dealing with up there was more than just an ape in the woods. These things have intelligence, and it wasn't until 80s, I think. No, 19. Cryptolinguists heard them by accident. Trained by the military, a 2-time graduate of the military school that teaches codes and languages and how to decipher them or not, how to transcribe them, how to tell if it is a language, and if it is a language, was there any deception in it? If it was a code, what's it trying to do? He was a military person trying to do this for the government, but for us. And he couldn't find anything like that. He came out and interviewed me and Al Berry, actually, and I got the context of all the sounds, and we let him study them, and he made the statement that these things are speaking a language by the human definition of language, and that means a morpheme stream of words which make a sapient sentence like we're talking now. And then I find out from Dr. Lieberman, Brown University, that only humans have the vocal mechanism for language. Well, that puts it in a whole nother game, because if only humans have that ability, and these things have that ability, and they do, that's a fact. And that means there's a component in us that they also have, or a component in us that we all have, something like that. They have the ability for vocalization. At least the ones we dealt with up there, and there were 6 of us. Well, only 5, because one of the guys wouldn't go back. He got freaked out. It sounds pretty aggressive when they first started with us in 1971. And the camp had actually been used since 1958 by the Johnson brothers. And anyway, I didn't get started until 71, and that just kind of threw me into it. Me and one of the guys I was friends with them all, but I wasn't a hunter until then, because then I became a hunter, and because that's what they did up there. There's a hunting camp. No one was looking for Bigfoot or these, whatever they are. They're just something big with a Bigfoot. We know that. So anyway, I got involved with them like that, and we started taking tape recorders up with us. Al Berry, like I say, he got the primo tapes and took them to the University of Wyoming, and they studied them. So that's how it got going. But when Dr. Lieberman says only humans have that means there's a whole other genome out there with a human component to it. That's the language. It takes the hyoid bone connected to the nervous system through the tongue into the brain to speak out what you're seeing. And nothing else has that on the face of this planet, according to Dr. Lieberman. And he's a cognitive primates scientist. He passed away last year, but he's very well thought of. I mean, he was just the highest one. In fact, Al Berry went to him first to see if he would tackle this, and he thought it was somebody just trying to discredit him, because he heard these things, and no, only humans can talk. So that's a phony. It's been made up. And he took it to another scientist who thought the same thing. You must be a former student that's trying to fool me or something. In fact, he used it as an example, I guess, in his classroom to tell the student this is how clever people can be. But they had not been played backwards. They had not been speed. Like I said, none of that happens. We had all that established by Curlin finally after this. But that's what Al Berry was running into. And so I credit him with doing a lot of the groundwork on what we have now, which is the scientific evidence, I think, and how this all comes together. And it's, like your introduction said, I've been pretty much all over the world looking for answers for this. And I think I kind of got it together because I think this whole Bigfoot thing is a smaller part of what really is going on in this environment we live in today. We're in a different type of world, and where aliens and UFOs are being spotted too and being acknowledged by our government. And that kind of answers a lot of the enigmas, because what got me into quantum physics was the strangeness that went on up there. When we seen them, then we wouldn't see them, and then they leave tracks, and the tracks stop. And then sometimes you hear everything being messed up outside the shelter, because we stayed inside this. It looked like a big beaver's nest. It was a group of trees that grew in a circle, and we laid deadfall up on them, and then strapped cables around it, and then cables. Anyway, we had a little beaver's nest, which we all stayed in. They'd come around and mess with us while we got inside, and so we only got glimpses of them occasionally until 1974, when I was out there with my buddy. We packed some supplies in, and I write about this in my Voices in the Wilderness, because it's when they started interacting with us. Usually they would wait till we got inside the shelter, but this night they didn't do that. They started, you hear the pounding of the rocks and the whooping back and forth, and it's just different. And we knew that was them, because that's how they announced themselves before they started messing with you. So we had learned from previous years, just be still, ignore them, they come closer. And they did. So this night I got to see one finally. And there's some sounds I got on my CD, which is called the Samurai Cry, and I'll get that to you. And that sound is, it's the night I saw one. It was running down towards where we think there were two more, a small one, the adolescent, and the female, we think, down to where he was going. And I just seen him streaking through the trees by our shelter, or not by our shelter, by our stove, which is by our shelter. So anyway, that got me started in it, and I've been chasing it ever since. But the enigmas, like I say, Bigfoot's probably the smaller part of the story. It gets me into quantum physics. I found that spirituality, which I was raised religiously, spirituality and quantum physics are synonymous. You really get into what quantum physics does and how it presents itself, and how spirituality teaches us. They answer each other. In my opinion, it's how I believe Christ did his miracles, because he said we could do the same thing he does, yet we're not walking on water yet, but we haven't learned how to connect everything. Like he said, you have to be one with the Father, as I'm one with the Father. You do that through your pineal gland into your heart, get your heart coherence with your brain, so your brain will follow your heart's leadership, and open yourself up to understanding and pulling things in from the source. Call that God right now. But again, I'm not religious anymore, but I am definitely spiritual, as we all are, like it or not. So just butt in there anytime you want to, Mick, and I'll answer questions or whatever.
Sure. How is energy and frequency and vibration involved with this? What connection do they have with it?
Yeah, good question. Well, at the most minute level, we are all energy frequency, vibrating at a certain frequency. That's the Tesla, and quantum physics says we're all energy at the most minute level. Everything is. You can find the frequency of something, you can change its matter, according to Einstein, according to physics. And there's equations which establish all this stuff, but we haven't been able to cross that little Milky Way yet, to understand just how. I think I know how, but I still haven't been able to walk on water yet. Just haven't been able to do that yet. I get wet every time I try. But that's how it's related. And actually, if you get into Paul Dirac, he's a professor who was at Florida, actually, here just before he passed away, but he's from the UK. And he established in 1933 antimatter. He got the Nobel Prize for it in 1933. And antimatter is the direct exchange between matter and energy and matter, and they were interchangeable. most people don't get that part, but how can your matter change into what we our essence? So we're an etherical person, but we're all ethereal person, and we're also a human person. We have our human body, but there's two parts to us, and energy can't die according to physics. So when you pass on, when your body gives up, your energy, your etherical body, your spiritual body will go on. And that's, if you're religious, you're going to go to heaven, you hope. And if you're a physicist, you're just going to change forms. So you don't really know what that is until you get there, I guess. But we all got our thoughts about it. You know, if you're going to go to the pearly gates, or you're going to just be reincarnated here so you can learn more. And a lot of us are here to learn more. We all got to learn. We all have to step up to the plate. Humanity is screwing things up on this planet, and we have to learn to be better people. And you do that through a lot of the teachings from biblical teachings, through love and compassion. And if you can learn to be compassionate with people and learn not to be a victim of circumstances, just learn from it, you can raise your personal vibrational frequency. And all those frequencies are in us from the time of our birth. We're here, we got them. We just have to learn how to delve into it. We call them dimensions. We live in a third dimensional environment. There's 9 or 10 more, probably a whole lot more than that. They've established that through science now. But quantum science is only a little over 100 years old, where we mostly live in a three-dimensional environment established by Newtonian physics, right? We all think that everything's based on material, physical, measurable, predictable. That's not true. Everything isn't. Everything you can see with your three-dimensional eyes is that way. So you have to get into your third eye. That's the eye of Horus, the one that the Egyptians talk about, and other cultures do too. And once you can start feeling and seeing things with that eye, you have a better way of knowing which way to go. Did that answer that?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Do you think people's frequencies are different, and that's why Bigfoot appear to some people and don't appear to others?
I do. Yeah, I do. I think that's why, because I think they can entangle. There's a phrase called quantum entanglement, which they can entangle you, and they can mentally speak to you, which some people call that mind speak. I've never had that happen to me that I know of, but I'm a very analytical person, and I try to figure things out in our three-dimensional world, right? Because that's what we can see. But this, you can't see quantum physics. It comes from the most minute level of our atom, our cell. And according to Dr. Christopher Blair at West Texas A&M, everything from the atom through the cosmos works in the laws of quantum physics. So you put that together, and you got to have three-dimensional Newtonian physics, but you also have to understand there's more going on that you don't see. That's what people get around, because you don't see these things all the time. But we only see within a frequency. Everything's a frequency. Everything's a frequency. We only see between 430 and 770 terahertz. That's our light's frequency. We only see with light, right? And when that's out, then you don't see anymore. Well, there's so many other frequencies out there besides what we see and what we deal with. And if you understand our limitations, our human limitations right now in this environment that we live in, you understand a little bit about how much more there is to understand. And that's where I'm at, because you have to know that there's more going on. When people are seeing ghosts, they're seeing different things. They have aliens visit them, or maybe that's real though, because aliens are here. I got to get into that in a minute, because what is Bigfoot? And I'm only speaking about the ones we encountered in the Sierras for so many years. And it was just hard for people to believe and get a grip on, because these things just don't go around showing themselves. You know, it's not that way with them. And these researchers that are out in the woods trying to find them, it doesn't work that way. If they want to deal with you, they'll come to you, and unless it's an accident. And sometimes that happens. People see them by accident. But not everybody's walking around with a camera ready to go. When they see them, it's just for a flash.
Do you think that's what happened with the Patterson film in 1967? You know,
Yeah, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. Yeah, that's no, that was more than a flash. That was a pretty good little shot there. In fact, that's credited as the best piece of film in establishing these creatures in existence. But again, that doesn't prove anything. Science says we want a body we can put up on the table. Well, who knows? I think probably a lot of them have been here for eons and eons. Probably their genome was created through integration from from a alien being into the genome of a primate, probably the troglodyte, maybe, and that they gave them the attributes they have. And then it wasn't until later on, eons later, when we were created by a special entity, and they gave us the attributes we have. But we were given dominion; they weren't. Nothing was. We were. So we are special, and I think people need to know who you are as a human. And once you realize who you are and what you were made after, and what your goal should be and is, you'll have more appreciation for this planet and for yourself and for everything going on.
So you believe that we were made by them?
By who's them?
By the aliens?
Well, let's call what would God be? An alien? I mean, we're hybrids, sure. Because I think we were made out of the troglodyte, and but we got sapiens. We got the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really want to dig back into the cuneiform text, which I've done, you find that well, this gets pretty deep. I don't think we have time to get into it all, but it's really a lot of fun. I got to tell you, this is interesting stuff. The cuneiform text, if you probably know it, it's the first written language for the Sumerians, and that's in Upper Mesopotamia. And all languages, written languages, were typed after that, came from that, even the Hebrew. However, you go into the Elohim, Elohim, and that's what the name for God was throughout the cuneiform text. Well, I'm going to say something here, but it's always plural.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what created man, supposedly, because they are very high level entities, high level frequency beings, and they can change into anything. They can do it. Some of those, I'm going to say Anunnaki, they call them, came to Earth and they disobeyed what they were here for. They were supposed to lead us and help us. Instead, they integrated with us, the bad ones. I say bad because they really kicked off the human genome. Excuse me, I had to plug something in.
So Ron, you were talking about where we originally came from. I asked you, do you think that if the aliens created us, and you were telling us that there was definitely a hybridization program going on, or a process of some sort going on?
That's how I believe. I believe that the Bigfoot, or creatures we call Bigfoot, have been made by different types of them, made by different alien beings who've been coming to this planet for eons and eons. I mean, we're talking about a long, long time, and they created the Yetis and these Bigfoot creatures, just a lot of different ones, and it's not all the same from the evidence I've found from all over the world, where I've been pretty much all over the world. And just they're different, and they have different attributes. So I think the Patterson film that we were talking about earlier, I think that was probably a diluted one. I say diluted because Native American lore and mythology says that they've taken their women, they've crossbred with them, which means another thing, there'd be 23 pairs of chromosomes, so 24. And that means they could interbreed with humans. And that's what the natives say, that they are spirit beings who can disappear, and they live in two worlds. Those things come up all the time in Native American mythology. And you wonder sometimes if it's a mythology or if there's a core truth to it. So I think there's a core truth to all that stuff. You just have to look a little deeper. And when you get into the cuneiform text, where I was when I had a problem here, it's just fantastic how all that stuff kind of comes together, how our written Bible has been altered over the eons or thousands of years. But it all comes from the cuneiform text. And if you see about that, and again, the Anunnaki, who were supposedly, I think they were the high-level beings, probably ninth-dimensional entities who could create and do anything, and they infiltrated the human genome and made well, they made the giants. So Genesis 6:4. To get into the Book of Enoch, and you hear really more about that. And that's kind of the chain I went through, because I was in the church a lot during the early days, and I started reading where giants came from. So I got into the Book of Enoch, which very enlightening when you start reading that. But then you got to go deeper than that, deeper and deeper and deeper. Finally, I got all the way back to the cuneiform text, and the Anunnaki, I believe, were the fallen angels, fallen aliens that decided to stay here and take our. They did what they did, as we know, and that's also where Enki came from, and these other beings you hear about, and where the culture came from. It was in Mesopotamia, and you look into Abraham and Sarah. They were residing in southern Mesopotamia, but they spent a lot of time, and a lot of when they moved up to northern Mesopotamia, where the Sumerians were, they probably inherited that culture up there, a lot of it. And that culture up there was talking about the Anunnaki and where we came from and all the stuff that has happened. And I think there's just a lot there to learn. And you get into how it all got filtered down through different entities in charge, whether it was, I think, Constantine or whoever was in charge at the time, and that they just decided what books they wanted in the Bible and what books they didn't, to control the crowds. That's all it's about, is control. That's what governments do. So it wasn't until let's see. Well, actually, he Constantine got the creed from, just allowed 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, into our Bible, and so those are the only ones allowed back in 326, I think it was, 27, something like that. So anyway, it goes on and on with ever influence. So many. So what got me started into this, look at, I had to find out how a camel could go through the gate, in Jerusalem. It's easier for rich men to go. It's easier for camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man in the heavens. Well, I started looking into the word for camel, and it's spelled exactly the same way in Hebrew as rope. So that got me thinking, well, wait, what makes more sense? A rope going through the eye of a needle? That's hard. Or a camel? Well, I never could find the gate. And I know I've heard stories about there's a gate there somewhere, but I've never seen it, never could. Anyway, that got me thinking, well, maybe there's other things that's changed. And so I started reading on how God does miracles through his natural environment and stuff like that. And how it just takes, I've been doing this for over 50 years now since I ran into these things. And I'm looking for answers, but it's led me into the spiritual life that I had earlier, and I still have. It leads me into thinking there's more going on than Bigfoot, because we call them all Bigfoot, like they're all the same. Well, they're not all the same. Again, they've been created by different alien beings, I think, and for different purposes, different
Are they all?
agendas.
Mhm,
Some could be bad,
mhm.
and some are bad, but that's because they want the earth. They don't want us to have it. That's excuse me. I went up to Port
Do
Lock,
they?
Alaska. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm interrupting you.
No, just what you said there. They want the earth. They don't want us to have it. What do you mean? Like, do they want us to disappear, and that they're going to inherit the earth? And why do we have dominion over the earth and not them?
Because that was given to us by our creators. Yeah, not the high frequency being we call God. And that's a consciousness that's out there. We all got to become one with that consciousness. We are a chosen people. That's in 2 Peter. And we are chosen because we are special. We were made in the image of something very, very special. And these things are not what we are. Bigfoots and the Anunnaki are beings. They're called the powerful ones. They're called the shiny ones. Satan was called the shiny one, And you get into just all that stuff. There's just so much to cover in this. And I've been doing it for 50 years, and we're trying to do it in an hour.
Sure. Is
But
this
it's
what
so
is this
much
what you mean
fun
by?
digging in. Uh, it's just so
Mhm.
much fun doing it because I feel like I'm on the edge. I'm 80 years old now, and I'm really not in this for personal gain or any ego or anything. I just want to tell people what happened to me in that Sierra camp and where it's taking me to now. It's taking me into realizing just who we are as a human being, how special we are as a human being, how we need to create some method in our meditation or something to advance our personal frequency so we can change and get into another dimension, which we all got to head to the fifth and the sixth. And I think we're these, and actually we're in the ninth dimension, in my opinion, but that's just my thoughts because all these dimensions, they call them dimensions, but they're not like a place you step to. They're placed inside of every individual. Every human being has the ability to get there. Christ certainly did, and so did a lot of the masters who could do miracles. Because I think that's like even Tesla said, "What one man calls God, no one calls quantum physics." That's where I come up when I first started this conversation with you. Is spirituality and quantum physics are synonymous.
Do you think this is what Christ meant when he said the kingdom of God is within you?
Absolutely, yeah. Just one of what he said that works out like that. Yes, the kingdom of God is within all of us. That's how you reach it, is through our consciousness. That's what doesn't die. The ethereal part of our being, which is our consciousness, doesn't die. And that's also quantum physics. You know, energy cannot die. Yet our body's going to die, and that's what we are at the most minute level. But that's the other part of us. There's two parts to us, and that's just that's just mystery solved for me there.
Mhm. Yeah, sure. I agree. Um, what's the cosmic war on Earth? Is this got anything to do with the cosmic war on Earth?
Yeah, I think so. And I think L.A. Missoula writes about that too. There's a cosmic war going on, and that cosmic war is between the aliens, the different types of aliens that exist, and they're really concerned about what we're doing to the planet. They're afraid we're going to blow it up again. Because we're the fifth time around for us humans, for this species, and we got to take better care. And they're concerned about us pushing the wrong button and messing it up for them, or for us too. But when we do stuff like that, it sends a frequency through the universe, and a lot of things are focused on this little blue planet here, third one from the sun, right? And it's this jewel of this solar system. And I think all aliens are concerned that whether they're good or bad, because some of them are not bad. In fact, most of them are not bad, and uh, most of them are fifth level beings, fifth or sixth, and we're just third level beings right now. And some of us have already transferred into a higher level. I see questions in your eyes, Nick.
No, I'm just wondering. So when you see these aliens turning off nuclear potentialities, it's
Mm.
not necessarily for us. It's because they want to keep the Earth kind of safe for themselves. Is that
A
what
lot
you're?
of it, yeah. But some of it's for them too, and for us, because some think we can all live together, and we just have to take our place in the cosmos. And humans can do that because I think, and I know a lot of religions are against this, and I was too for years and years of my life, but I believe in multiple embodiments. And I don't think we can learn everything in one embodiment. We have to be here. And when we get to come back, if we come back, it's so we can respond to things better. If you don't respond to things with love and compassion, you got to learn it sooner or later. Somewhere you're gonna have to learn it, and you know, well, energy can't die. So if we were somewhere before, and we'll be somewhere again. But where that's going to be, you're going to be where you can learn, so you can progress, because everything should be headed towards love, compassion, and I think we got to learn that. That
Do you
can't go
meditate,
against.
Ron?
Absolutely, yes.
Is it a daily thing or is it a weekly thing?
Pretty
How
much
often do you?
daily. No, it's pretty much daily, and we keep the dark side out. In other words, we don't watch the dark movies or the dark news. A lot of that goes on. So we don't watch the things that can lead you into a negative vibration. We want to keep our vibration high, and you do that through positive positive outlook, positive thinking, and helping other people and doing what you can like that. And don't let the dark side in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What is the, apart from your own recordings and the 1967 Pedersen footage, what's the most convincing evidence for Bigfoot? What other, in your opinion, what's the most convincing?
It's so hard to say because so many people are coming out with fuzzy pictures and different things like that. There's been the Freeman footage, I think, is acceptable. Where that's another film of a Bigfoot. Well, I don't know if you've seen that or not, but I think that's pretty good. There's probably hundreds of people that are spotting these things and supposedly taking a picture, but I tell them, unless you go back there with a 6 foot tall man walking the same spot, take another picture from the same place, I need to look at it differently. You can always say, yeah, that's good. Thanks for doing that. But you don't know and you can't confirm it. I was
How,
over in Siberia.
how,
Go ahead.
sorry, no, please finish.
Well, I was just going to say I was in Siberia when they took us way back in the wilderness to a cave where the wild man supposedly had been being seen. And they took us into the cave and I found footprints. And Dr. Meldon was with me. And so was Dr. John Bindernagel, the two professors. And we we looked at those, but we couldn't attest 100% that they were credible because they took us there. Unless you find something on your own, or if somebody sets you up, you don't, and that was hard for, there's a lot of press there and a lot of PR going on for Russia at the time. And it was a big deal, but we got together and because they took us there, it just kind of put that little 5% in there. We can't say it's real. And, Dr. Meldon is a footprint expert. He's from the University of Idaho. So I just spoke with him last weekend down in Florida. And, he's still at it. He's on our side, but he's a classical scientist, and classical scientists are trained in certain parameters, and those parameters have to be met, or else you're out of the tube. I'm not in that, by the way. I can think freely and I can say what I want to say and be okay with it. Because if you don't live your own truth, well, what are you living for?
Mm-hmm.
And,
so you believe that a lot of scientists, they actually agree with well, what is essentially evidence now for Bigfoot? They behind closed doors that they agree with it.
Yeah, I think they do. Because they've got to believe, a lot of them, even these guys that I know, they believe in God on Sunday, but they can't believe that the woo-woo's out there. What's all about if you can't believe in another dimension things? Well, they have to stay within their three-dimensional academia guidelines, and that box is keeping them restricted. I think they have to open up the parameters.
How big do the Bigfoots actually get? How big do they get?
I know, well, I've got some reports where they're 15 foot tall. I know one's up at our camp, but we found one set of tracks. It wasn't right in our camp. It was up on the hillside there, and it was 25.5 inches. It was 13 feet apart, and it wasn't running. So you have to do the math on that one. But that's got to be 12 foot tall. And I've had other guys say they saw one, they thought it was King Kong, 12 foot tall. And you get up into Portlock, Alaska, where the Discovery Channel took me 2 years ago, and that's where they had the story of the whole village being abandoned up there because of this 15 foot tall Bigfoot-like creature was killing them. It tore up close to 30 villagers, and they just all abandoned the village. So they took me up there because the heirs of that family was late 1940, early 1950, and they took me up there to give them an idea of what it would take so they could re-habituate that camp because it's a good fishing spot, everything. And I looked it over when it took me in by a helicopter. I looked it over pretty well, and I could see where a long time ago, probably 60 years ago, they had timbered it quite heavily. They had also, in the pictures I saw, they'd overfished it a lot. And I told them, in my opinion, because they were also mining it. So I told them, in my opinion, you guys didn't show appreciation, or these people didn't show appreciation for the land. They didn't respect it. You were probably encroaching in their area when you're timbering. And I imagine if one of the, something 15 foot tall come out of there growling at you, you'd probably shoot at it. That would make it, that kind of piss it off. and then they'd probably tear you apart. So people say, well, they're good or they're bad. Well, it depends on what you're dealing with. So I tell people just, my suggestion is keep your guard up and realize you don't know what you're dealing with. Because we don't know what we were dealing with up there, other than they didn't eat us. They didn't carry us away. And they did make some really aggressive sounds, which you could play. But wow, some of the guys just don't want to go back anymore. And I've been back there since 2018. David Paulides, who wrote the 401 books, I just spoke with him with Melbourne this last weekend too, down in Florida. But I took him and his videographer up to our camp, and that was in 2018. And they recreated something my wife and I saw Carrie going by our tent. It was just a rod of light. And what do you do with that? You don't know what its intentions are. You don't know what it's, nothing up there surprises me. It's just one of those weird places, you know. And it doesn't happen every time you go, but when it does happen, just be prepared to be prepared. So
Reminds
anyway,
me of that Skinwalker Ranch.
yeah, it's got some of those anomalies. And we'd wonder why we didn't see them more often. Of course, I didn't know about cloaking then. I didn't know about the laws that support that. I didn't know a whole lot of things that I think I know now. After 50 years, I should, I guess. But it just, my daughter up there, I saw them 3 times. And Bill McDowell, my friend, he saw them once. I got a glimpse of them once at one time in 1974. That's when he saw one also. And they're just very elusive, very stealthy, very, very, very fast. You think something that big would be clumsy.